for resiliency. I am Carrie McGinn. I am a physical therapist and yoga instructor here to teach you all different things today. So if you are curious what we're going over today, we're going off mindfulness, how it relates to resiliency, mindfulness in your daily life, and how to really relate it to current events. And we're going to go through some awesome mindfulness demos. So between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space lies our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. This is one of my all-time favorite quotes to explain mindfulness to someone. Think about stimulus and response. Stimulus is something that we experience. So it is a feeling or something that comes across our day-to-day life. My best explanation for this is getting cut off in traffic. So I know there's not a lot of traffic in Boston, especially any cities these days, but when you're getting cut off in traffic, you have a moment when you get cut off between your reaction and what has just happened. So it can be really easy to lay on the horn. It can be really easy to start yelling, but that space between the stimulus and what happens is a space where you can be a little bit more mindful in your day-to-day life and you can really just notice what's going on. So what is mindfulness? I like to think of mindfulness as that space where you can decide how to respond and how to react, where you can tune in and breathe. To know the space between stimulus and response is to know mindfulness. Other ways to think about it is the ability to connect to the space, the awareness of your mind, body, and everything around you. The awareness of the choices you have from your moment to moment. So the choice to stress out, the choice to move forward, the choice to pause. And when I talk about it right now, it might seem like it's a little bit more simple than it actually is, but it can be really tough to find mindfulness. And we're going to go over a lot of different ways on how to do that today. So if you're looking at this and thinking, well, yeah, I know all these things, but I still don't feel like I've got mindfulness down, don't worry about it. We're going to go through a lot of it. It's about being in tune with your body and mind and being really present right here and right now. So a little bit about mindfulness and resiliency. So looking at the research, being mindful shows improvements in our resiliency, compassion, satisfaction with life, and psychological well-being. Creating mindfulness practices in our day-to-day life shows significant reductions in burnout and compassion fatigue, which is really common in human service professionals, whether you're in the medical field or in a human service field in general. Psychological resiliency is also more pronounced in mindful people. If you're mindful, you have better coping with difficult thoughts and emotions, and higher mindfulness really equals greater resiliency. So that is all to say that everything we're doing right now, everything we're talking about will help us build resiliency. And what is resiliency and why is it so important? Resiliency is our ability to handle stress in our daily lives. So especially given our current events, we are thrown so much stress on a day-to-day basis, whether it's the news, whether it's being at home, working, if you have children, there's so much being added to our plate right now, and there's so much that our physical body and our mind is going through. We are handling so much stress on a day-to-day basis. So in order to deal with that stress, we really need to be resilient. We need to have a high level of resiliency, and we can get that by having a mindfulness. So mindfulness in daily life, this is my best example of when we're not mindful. So do you ever have those days when you've overslept and then you're rushing out of bed and you drop your coffee on the floor and then you rush to your computer to find the laptop wasn't charged, and then you try to log in but your internet is down, or maybe like me earlier, you have technological issues. There is a lot being thrown at you and you're rushing from one to one to one and nothing seems to be going right. That is the perfect example of not having mindfulness in your day-to-day life, having a really unmindful morning, for lack of a better term. So it can be really tough when you're stuck in that loop of rushing from one thing to the next and running all around, and it can be really stressful and not fun. So how can we bring mindfulness into our daily life? So let's take this example here, this oversleeping, dropping your coffee. I will honestly say that this has been me more than once across my lifetime. And it's the ability to, when you oversleep and then some things don't go your way and you're in this stressful situation, to just pause, to take a moment, to take 2 breaths and slow down and see what you need to do next. As simple as that sounds, taking literally 1 breath before you head into the next part of your day will help you better handle the stressors that are coming your way. So mindfulness in current events, why is this so important? These are unprecedented times. There is so much uncertainty, so much unknown. There is fear, there is stress, whether it be financial, emotional, physical, mental, there is worry. There's all these different emotions and things that we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. Our bodies and our minds can feel it and we experience it and we're not always sure what to do with it. And that the uncertainty of not knowing what to do with all this uncertainty, which seems like I'm talking in a bit of a circle, which I am because it's a circle that we're all on together, can really take a toll on our bodies and minds. So you're probably sitting there asking, can mindfulness really help? The answer is yes. By adding even 5 minutes of a mindfulness practice or a mindful breath into your day-to-day life, it can go a long way to decreasing your daily stress levels, to increasing your resiliency, and to just improving your day-to-day life. So let's get into the good stuff. So I kind of just said this, I jumped ahead of myself, but incorporating that mindfulness can help you learn to better handle daily stressors. Think of it like building muscles at a gym. Mindfulness is the same for your brain, your mental and emotional capacity, and your resiliency. So where to start? First things first, I want you to breathe. So wherever you are right now, I want you to close your eyes and take a deep breath in and open mouth out. Take 1 more for me. Deep breath in and long breath out. And then notice what sensations come up in your body. What emotions come up in your body? And try not to judge them. Just notice what comes up here. And I'll have you take another deep breath in and long breath out. And then if you have space available, you don't need it, write out what comes up or type it up on your phone or your computer. Write out what you notice going on in your body, in your mind, in your emotions. If you take nothing else away from today, take these 3 things away. Breathe, notice, and write it out. You can even do this really quickly first thing before your workday. When you sit down at your computer, take 3 deep breaths in, notice what goes on, and then write 3 things that you feel are going on. That's all it can take sometimes. That is my first step for everyone. Breathe, notice, and write it out. So let's take this a little bit deeper. We're going to go through a brief mindfulness demonstration, a body scan meditation, while we're here to break up a little bit of the information. So if you're in a space where you can close your eyes, please close your eyes, get a comfortable seat. This is to give you a small taste of another mindfulness practice to kind of bring you back to the current moment. So wherever you are, begin to close your eyes and begin to notice your breath. Taking a couple of deep inhales and long exhales. Notice how your breath feels as it enters your body. Notice how the inhales expand through your body, and the exhales let everything go. Bring awareness to how the breath ebbs and flows through your mouth or nose. Notice if your breath feels warm or cool. And then begin to bring awareness to your body. Where are your clothes touching your skin? Where's your hair touching your face or neck? And then begin to bring awareness to your feet. Notice if they're touching the ground beneath you. Notice what parts are touching the ground. Is there any tension in your feet, your ankles? And then begin to bring awareness up through your lower leg, into your knees. Is there any tension here? Can you feel any sensations? And then slowly bringing your awareness to your thighs, inner and outer, front and back. Where are you touching the chair or surface beneath you? And guiding your awareness up through your hips, your low belly, and your low back. Do you notice any tension? Any sensations? Any emotions that come up here? And then begin to bring awareness up through your rib cage, your upper back, your chest. Can you feel the breath expand the rib cage? Can you notice the different muscles that are helping you breathe here in this very moment? And then bringing your awareness up through your shoulders, down through your upper arms, elbows, forearms, wrists, and hands. And maybe you even move your arms just a little bit. Noticing how it feels to move your arms in the air into the space around you. Once again, noticing where your clothes touch your skin, or where the air moves across your skin. And then last but not least, slowly bringing your awareness to your neck, your head, and your face. Are you holding any tension in these areas? Do you notice any sensations? Just taking a couple more breaths here to notice each and every part of your body. Notice how it feels, where it connects to the space, to your supports, and where your breath flows. Let this awareness of each part of your body help anchor you in the current moment, the here and now, of all the things you're experiencing and feeling right here. And then take a deep breath in, fill all the way up. And an open mouth. And then gently flutter your eyes open if they're closed. And just notice how you feel. Maybe you write it down, or maybe you pop how you feel into the chat box. If at any point you have any questions about this meditation or about anything I talk about, feel free to pop it into the chat box and I'll address all questions at the end. That is just a brief example of a body scan meditation. You can make that meditation as long or as short as you'd like. And being able to bring your awareness to different parts of your body, bring your awareness to where you are in space, can anchor you in the current moment. And by anchoring yourself in the current moment, you can more readily handle challenges that come across. So maybe you are dealing with a lot of work emails, maybe you're dealing with a lot of children at home, or just a lot more people in your house. And you feel really disconnected from your body, you feel really stressed out. Taking 2 minutes to check in with your body, and honestly, I like to think of it as showing some love to your body, can help take you out of stressful experiences and bring you into your body, and then start to prioritize what you need to do from there. Let's keep going with some more examples. So here are some of my top quick tips, going away from a practice and more about tips for day-to-day life. So throughout this PowerPoint, you're going to start to notice I intersperse practices with tips. So here are some tips for more mindfulness to build resiliency. Nurture positive relationships in your life, especially during this time right now where we're really disconnected, where we're not necessarily seeing our families or our friends as much as possible, where we're spending a lot of time on computers and on phones. It's really important to nurture positive relationships, because when we nurture positive relationships, we're inherently more mindful because we're in the moment with people we love and care about. So when you are spending time with someone you care about, when you have the opportunity to be in person, or even if it's on the phone, do your best to be fully present. Notice what the other person is saying. Pause before responding, and express gratitude for that person in front of you. Another tip is to flip your perspective. This one can be really hard. It's something that I have been actively practicing for many, many years. But can you create meaningful challenges by flipping it from why is this happening to me to why is this happening for me? This can be really hard. I talk about this a lot when I talk about grief and when I talk about work stress. So grief is a really good example, and grief can be more than just losing someone. It can be losing a job, it can be losing a situation. It could be dealing with grief for our current situation right now. But can you flip it to why is this happening for me? Or even what can I learn from this? So maybe asking yourself on a day when you feel like nothing's going right, like you're very stressed out, what can I learn from my current situation? And maybe that's learning what you need more of in your life, what you need less of in your life, or maybe it's just the simple fact that you realize how strong you inherently are. That might seem a little out there and a little idealistic, but each and every one of you on this call today have showed up here to learn something about yourself. And I'm sure has been through some sort of stress over the past 12 months, over the past year, over your life. So can you take a moment and realize something you've learned from the past 6 months? That's a really great way to build resiliency because it shows you how strong you are. Tip number 3, can you accept change as a part of living? This mindset shift can prepare us for challenges. We know that life doesn't stay the same. And if we can embrace that, even by just accepting that we don't know what's coming next, that we know that it might change, it will help better prepare us for the change ahead. Tip number 4, slow down. So for many people during quarantine, it's given them more time. For some people it hasn't. So if it hasn't given you more time, I'm going to speak to that in just a moment, but it has given you more time. Have you truly slowed down in that time? And slowing down looks different for every single person here today. That might mean spending more time sleeping. That might mean spending more time doing something you love to do. That just literally might mean moving slower in your day-to-day life. And say you don't have more time in quarantine. Say you are even busier than ever before, because that is a very, very big reality for a lot of people. Even if you're very busy and even busier than before, can you slow down in the moments that you do have? So even if that's 5 minutes before bed to breathe a little bit, 5 minutes in the morning to make a ritual out of pouring your coffee, taking a deep breath, maybe going for a really slow walk, even just to your car if you're going into work. Slowing down can help us be more mindful, which in turn can build more resiliency. Another great tip is writing more. So the act of writing things down can bring awareness to our thoughts, feelings, and help us process more mindfully. It can help us really process challenges and stressful situations. So it can be as simple as writing 3 things you're grateful for every morning. It can be writing how you're feeling and processing through it. I really encourage people, if they're in the midst of a really stressful situation or something that's really weighing on them, to write out their thoughts without judgment. It's called free writing sometimes. There's a lot of different words for it, or brain dumping, but just getting a fresh sheet of paper and writing every single thought that comes across your mind. And honestly, sometimes just the fact of writing it out goes a long way. I don't always reread what I write. I just write it out and let it get out of my brain. And sometimes over the course of writing, it helps me learn a little bit more about what's going on and what I can then accept or flip my perspective on. And then the last tip is meditation. So I already took you through one meditation, and we're going to go through definitely another one in this section. So here are some mindfulness practices that you can take in your day-to-day life. So I already talked a little bit about writing, daily journaling. So dumping it out. Wake up first thing in the morning and write everything that's on your mind. This can help us start with a fresh slate so that we can better handle the challenges throughout our day. This is also where you can write out how you feel if you do come into a stressful situation. Another great tip is mindful eating. Not everyone has the time to sit down for meals, but if you do have the time for sit down for meals, can you take even 10 minutes to slow that down? It's better for your digestive system, it's better for your whole body, and it's also really great for your mind-body connection. So things like slowly chewing each bite and making almost a mini meditation out of it. Can you notice the texture? Notice the taste. Notice how your food smells, and really slow down. Can you take a pause between each bite? So often we're shoveling food into our mouth to get to the next activity. And I 100% understand that that's what we need to do sometimes. But when you have time, can you take that time to eat, to really enjoy what you're eating? It can be really useful also for just noticing the food you have in front of you and setting gratitude for a food that you have. Another one of my favorite practices is mindful walking. So this can be really useful if you close your eyes, but obviously we can't always do that when you're walking. So when you're in your home, you can always close your eyes and take a couple of steps back and forth. But if you're not in your home, a really great way to practice mindful walking is to notice your feet on the ground. Notice what part of your foot strikes the ground first. Notice what parts of your body are moving, what muscles are activating. And then notice your breath, your inhales and your exhales. Notice they're short or long. And then begin to notice what is around you. The sights, the sounds, the smells. This is especially helpful if you are in an area of Mother Nature, even if it's just walking down your street and noticing the birds in the trees. So some different breath work for resiliency. Breath work is a really great way to build resiliency and to build mindfulness. So these are some of my favorites, different types of breath work. And I'm just going to touch on them briefly. I wrote a bunch of different names here so that you had them and you had some information to go off of, and we will practice one of them, so don't worry. So breath of fire is one that's really common if you've practiced yoga before. It is an inhale with a lot of short exhales. Breath of fire, I only recommend if you are looking to stimulate, to increase your energy. If you're looking to calm down and relax at night, I would not recommend breath of fire. It is one of the more intensive and harder to learn breath work, so I'm not going to go into it today, but it is a really great breath work to build resiliency and to improve our tolerance for stress. Box breathing is one of my all-time favorite for building resiliency and for mindfulness. We will be going through this one in just a moment, so I won't dive into it too much here. Abdominal thoracic breathing, which is also known as belly breathing, is another great way to get into this mindfulness. So really all that is breathing into your ribs and your low belly and really feeling the full expansion of your breath. I'll usually have people start here if they've never played around with breath work before. Another great way to incorporate breath work in their day-to-day life is breathing with movement. So this is commonly seen in yoga classes, but you can just do it in your day-to-day life as well. So if that's inhaling to lift your arms up overhead and then exhaling to let them relax, that's just a simple breath with movement. Let's try that actually real quick. If you're sitting in a space where you have a little bit of room, you're just going to inhale, reach both arms up overhead, and exhale, let them go. Arms by your side. Inhale, arms reach overhead. Exhale, arms by your side. I want you to try that 2 more times at your own pace. Breath with movement is kind of what we were just doing. So if you want to keep playing around with inhaling, arms reach, and exhaling, arms by your side, please do. I'm going to head into our next meditation, and we're going to come back to breath with movement at the end, just so in case anyone who has to leave right at 1, there is time for that. So here are some mindful challenges. This is kind of if you want to take it to the next level and you want to work on your stress tolerance. So these might seem a little crazy, for lack of a better word, and they're not anything that you have to do. This is just over the course of my research, some things that I have come across and that I've played with personally and professionally to build resiliency and mindfulness. So cold showers, this might sound really crazy, but being able to tolerate a stressful experience helps us better tolerate stressful experiences in the future. So if you've undergone stress and you've accomplished your task and you've lived through it and you feel good about it, you're better able to handle stressful situations in the future. So think about everyone, if anyone in here has ever known someone who's run a marathon or who's run a marathon themselves, and once the person gets through a marathon, they're like, oh, I think I can do that again. That wasn't as hard as I expected. That's not how I felt, but that's how some people feel. That's because you already went through the marathon. You already went through that challenging experience. So you feel that you're better able to tolerate that stressful experience again. So cold shower is just a really simple way to play around with it in the morning. It's after taking your shower, turning on the cold water for anywhere from 30 seconds to 5 minutes. It can reduce stress levels. It can improve alertness. It improves your willpower. It increases resiliency. It is not for the faint of heart, and I don't recommend it for everyone, but it's a really fun way to kind of play around with your stress tolerance. Another great way to do it with your breath is lengthen the exhale. So we'll try that right here for a moment. Take an inhale and count to 3. Inhale, 2, 3. And then exhale, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. So you really start with just taking an inhale for a couple of counts and an exhale a little bit longer. If you can begin to lengthen your exhales, it really induces rest and relaxation response in the body and improves our ability to handle stress. I wouldn't go too crazy here and try to exhale for 20 counts. Even just a simple breathing in for 3 counts and breathing out for 4 or 5 counts can go a really long way. It can be really hard at first on your body to try this out. And by really hard, I just mean it can be challenging. So I would just practice it and try 1 or 2 counts at a time. Another really great mindful challenge is to challenge your body. So set a goal, whether that's I want to walk for 20 minutes straight, or I want to run a mile, or I want to be able to perform 10 squats in a row. It really doesn't matter. You can do any of the above. So whenever you rise to a challenge, you prove to yourself that you're strong and capable. So that same marathon analogy. If you walk a mile, you prove to yourself you can walk a mile, and you can maybe do a little bit more. So start small, set goals, and then challenge your body, and it will challenge your mind and build resiliency. So I'm going to take questions really quickly, and then if I'm going to say an extra 5 minutes at the end. We're just going to go over by 5 minutes to do a little box breathing if you can stick around. If not, don't worry. The webinar will be on this website below within a week. So I'm just going to pull up the screen, pause the share for a moment. If you want to see the webinar details, here's the screen, just screenshot it really quickly or write down that information. I'm going to take questions, and then we'll do some box breathing at the end for anyone who wants to stick around for that. So I'm going to pause my share. Beautiful. Alrighty, let's see your questions, everyone. Oops. Alrighty, so if you have any questions, please feel free to pop a question in the chat box or to ask me anything you got over the microphone. Beautiful. Any questions, guys? Alrighty. Hi, anyone who needs to go, feel free to head out. I'm going to wait another 5 minutes for questions, and then I'm going to do the box breathing. So if you want to stick around for the box breathing, please do. So we have one question. Do you have any suggestions to change negative thoughts? Yes, I do. That is really tough because negative thoughts can cause us to get into a little bit of a spiral. So 2 things I would say, actually multiple things, we're going to start with 2. 2 things for negative thoughts. The first thing you can do is write down all your negative thoughts. That might seem counterintuitive, but just getting them out of your head and onto paper can kind of put them in a different light. You can write them down like, I feel this way, I feel that way. And once you look at them, sometimes it's like, oh, I didn't even realize I was feeling those things. So that would be step number 1. Step number 2 will be, can you flip those negative thoughts around on yourself? So say the negative thought is, I've gotten nothing done today. That's a common one for a lot of people right now. Can you flip it around to, I've taken time to rest, or look at all the things I have gotten done. Put yourself in a positive light, even if it seems fake to you at first. It might seem like puffing yourself up and like you're going over the top, but if you can switch your thoughts from negative to positive, even if you write out, sometimes I'll do this, I'll write out, I got nothing done today. And then I'll write out next to it, I actually got a lot done. I did X, Y, and Z. And see how the 2 statement feels. And seeing them side by side can really just bring another level to it for our mind and our body. Another really common way to kind of flip the switch on this is to project that negative thought onto someone else. And this is not to them, but think about saying that negative thought to someone, especially if you're thinking something negatively about yourself. So if it's, I'm so lazy, imagine if you called someone you really loved and care about lazy. And think about how bad you would feel about calling them lazy. And then think about how you're now saying those things to yourself. So those are some ways to kind of flip negative thoughts that you have about yourself. Another thing I do want to touch on here is negative thoughts just in general, right? Because there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of worry, there's a lot of negativity. There's no way to put it easily. So if you have just negative thoughts in general, you have to really sit with yourself and sit with, where are these negative thoughts stemming from? Am I worried about work? Am I worried about the current situation? Am I worried about a family member? And then think about, have a great day if you guys are leaving, think about how, if these negative thoughts are true. So that's really something easy you can ask yourself. So is this true? That's one thing. And then, can I control this? Right now, there is so much that we cannot control, which, believe me, I know makes it even more stressful. But if it's out of your control, then there's really nothing you can do about it. And what you can do is control how you feel. So if you pause and say, are these negative thoughts true? And are they in my control? Those are some great ways to deal with situational negative thoughts. Of course. So another question we got, how do you block out people who are bringing negative attitude? That is a really, really great question. And it is easier said than done. So first things first, are they people that you can block out? Because a lot of times it's not, correct? Sometimes it's people that we have to deal with on a daily basis, whether it be at home, out in the world, or at work. So one thing is really take inventory of who you surround yourself with. Easier said than done. So there are people that you can choose to surround yourself with and people you can't. So that's one level. The next level, if you do have to deal with anyone who's having negative attitudes around you, is, do you have to take on their negative attitude? Is it affecting you personally? One thing I've learned to practice over the years is listening, but not taking on other people's attitudes. And that's easier said than done. So after an experience with someone who might be projecting negative thoughts and negative attitudes onto you, can you step away for a moment? And sometimes this might even look like going to the bathroom if you're in a situation where you're in a room with them, by turning off your computer, by hanging up the phone, and take 5 minutes to notice how the negative thoughts affected you physically and mentally. Notice how that feels in your body, and then make the decision to let it go. It sounds really silly and simple, but think about cutting those ties with that person energetically more than actually physically by saying, you know what, so-and-so is really negative about this situation. I don't feel that negatively about it. That is theirs. This is mine. I'm going to take a big inhale, and on the exhale, I release anything they threw at me. Another really great thing here, and this is something that one of my friends actually taught me as I work with a lot of people on a day-to-day basis, is have a little ritual to kind of cleanse yourself of that negative thought and negative attitude. So for me, if I've had a client come in and they have some negative attitudes that I'm trying to help them work through, but I feel like they've affected me physically and mentally a little bit, I'll take a moment to either light a candle and throw my music on, or do something where I have a scent that makes me really happy. So spray some perfume on that I really like, and then throw in a song and dance it out. Just flip my personal energy and my attitude after dealing with a negative situation. So whether that be through scents that you like, through activities that you like, or music that you like. Alrighty, I hope that helped. If it didn't, please drop in another question. Let me pull up one more question. So a lot of physical symptoms when you get anxiety and how to control them. So that is a really great question, because a lot of times people who are feeling anxious can feel it in their physical body. The best thing I can recommend is moving, is finding a movement practice or some way that you're moving your body that you can connect to. So for some people that's yoga, for some people that's running, weightlifting, tai chi. You kind of get the drift, it can be anything. So having a physical practice where you can kind of notice what's going on in your body and move through it mindfully is going to really help with those physical symptoms of anxiety. And if movement exasperates them, then that's something I would definitely talk to a healthcare professional about. If you feel that you're exasperated by your anxiety symptoms are exasperated by movement. But definitely finding a way that you can connect back into your body and anchor yourself in the physical space. And the most tangible way to do that is through moving your body. Another question is, how do you deal with a kid that won't listen and knows how to push your buttons constantly? I will be honest, I do not personally have kids. I have a lot of family members around me that have kids though. So I do understand this slightly, but not nearly as much as you parents out there. All you parents out there, just good job, keep going. I think part of that is taking some time for yourself, and that doesn't have to look like all these elaborate, spa days on Instagram or Facebook. That's taking a second to pause, maybe before the kids wake up, or maybe when the kids are in the middle of an activity. And if the child is in the middle of pushing your buttons, can you take 3 deep breaths? Even if that still means your child is still yelling at you, can you take, and they're safe. They're yelling at you, but they're safe and they're in front of you. Can you close your eyes and take 3 deep breaths before reacting? And that's where really that stimulus and response goes hand in hand. It can be really hard to do that as well. And I don't want you to think that I'm saying that if you react right away, you're doing anything wrong. You are not. You are allowed to react when a child is pushing your buttons. And like I said, I'm not an expert in this as I am not a mother myself, but sometimes you're just going to react, and that's going to be okay. But if you can give yourself a chance to pause and breathe and realize that the person, the child in front of you, whether it's a child young or old or another adult, that they're probably going through a lot of physical and mental stress as well during these past 6 months, and to send them a little bit of grace and to send yourself even more grace, that's going to go a really long way. Okay, let's see. Oh, sorry. I will put up the slide for the site in just a moment if you stick around. Awesome. Beautiful. Any more questions? Otherwise, I'm going to pop up that slide so you can get the slides, and I'm going to take you through box breathing really quickly. Beautiful. Thank you so much for joining. Let me get that slide back up for you, and we'll get right into the box breathing. Alrighty, so here is the slide where you're going to get all the information for this webinar. And if you'd like to stick around for the box breathing, I invite you to take a comfortable seat and you keep your eyes closed or open for this. If at any point you feel anxious, you feel stressed, you feel like you don't want to do it anymore, please stop. You do not have to do this by any means. So we're going to start by just noticing your breath, the inhales and the exhales. What we're going to do in a moment, and I'm going to talk you through this, but I'm going to explain it first, is you're going to inhale for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, exhale for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, and keep with that continuous movement. So on your next inhale, fill up for 4, 3, 2, 1, hold, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold, 4, 3, 2, 1. I encourage you to keep doing this at your own pace. I'm going to start to cue again in a moment. I'm going to add another layer on here if you can. If you can you breathe in and out through just your nose, keeping your mouth closed? And you might need to shorten it a little bit. So inhale, 3, 2, 1. Hold, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold, 3, 2, 1. And keep going at a couple more breaths here. Beautiful. And then on your next inhale, fill all the way up and open mouth. Sigh it out. Beautiful work, guys. If you have any questions about the box breathing, if you have any last minute questions, please let me know. I'm going to stick around for another 4 or 5 minutes or so. Otherwise, have a wonderful day. The presentation will be up within a week on the slide I posted before. Thank you so much for joining me and for sticking around through a little bit of technological issues in the beginning. Have a wonderful, wonderful Wednesday. Thank you.